Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. I'm going to pin Panoploscelis specularis, which is a giant rainforest katydid. It's a terrestrial predaceous cricket that lives in the upper drainage area of the Amazon. So you're going to be closer to Peru, Guyana, deep in the rainforest, higher elevation. These crickets are massive, so I'm going to show you kind of what my setup is when I'm hydrating them. Because it's a katydid that is flightless, it's fairly easy to pin. It almost comes ready to be spread and dried. So the reason why I'm going to have a video on this particular species today is because the specimen I got was broken. So I'm going to do a little repair so you guys can see what that looks like. 1 second. So this is my little hydration chamber. It's just a Rubbermaid. It's got a layer of cloth and foam board and lots of moisture. And then this katydid came very dried. And what I do is I simply take this spiny lobster katydid. I cut open the wrapping that it's in just a little bit and I hydrate it. I put it on the foam board and the paper. I don't actually submerge it in water, though you could, but I like to hydrate them overnight so it slowly leaches in. And so this is a massive, massive cricket. This one is a male. And what I wanted to do, since it's already sort of in a nice pose, but it came with some pieces kind of broken off, I was just going to show you what a repair looks like and some of my setup here. So I'm going to take him out, take this off. So I'm going to go ahead and remove him from the rest of this wrapping he came in. So this species, this particular species, specularis, wasn't described until 2002 or 2003, the early 2000s. So fairly new. A lot isn't, not very much is known about them, simply because we don't have a lot of data. They are common where they are found, but the issue is it's not a super accessible part of the rainforest. So kind of put some of this stuff away and I'll show you. So this is what we got so far. You can see that it's a very large specimen. His jaws are out and they're very stubby and short, but they're very, very powerful. So this is technically a predaceous cricket, but most of them are omnivorous by nature. They'll chew on leaves, they'll make little patterns in them, but they will hunt other vertebrates. One of the giveaways is obviously a very powerful jaw, and then they have these huge spines on their forelegs. They will hunt invertebrates as well as small vertebrates. These have been known to take on geckos, lizards, small snakes. Obviously, any small bird that falls out of a nest will also be falling prey. I mean, they're very indiscriminate. If it's smaller than it, if it can fit inside these little claspers, these things will eat anything they can find. And that's pretty common with most terrestrial ground katydids. These are not locusts. They are not grasshoppers. One of the giveaways is that their antenna in grasshoppers generally is something like 15-20% of the length of their body, whereas a katydid's antennas, or bush crickets, or crickets in general, they usually have very, very long antenna, often to kind of test the temperature or the moisture in the atmosphere, smelling for chemical signatures from prey and relatives alike, if they're out looking for a breeding partner. So the males have huge back legs, very spiny, excellent defense if they have to kick something. You can see here, very folded up, very tiny, is a pair of crossing vestigial wings. They are flightless. So this may have been longer, millions of years ago, or tons and tons of generations ago. Whatever was here, wings, they've slowly just shrunken as they found their niche on the bottom of the leaf litter in the rainforest. They are not arboreal. They don't technically climb tall trees. They kind of stay in the ground, as far as we know, as far as researchers know. And so here, after a few hours of hydrating overnight, he's got a little bit of play in these legs. This is the broken leg, and I'm going to repair that for you. But I wanted to make sure I can get some of this stuff moving nice and comfortably first. The reason is such a giant, cool looking cricket. I want to pose him with his legs up and out, not just a super flat thing. And so I definitely want to be able to get him in a cool position, since he is one of the largest crickets in the world. You know, next to something like a wetapunga, like the New Zealand tree crickets or mountain crickets. They have huge wettas up there. They're so substantial that my smaller frames that I build would just kind of lock him in and it would look kind of flat. So what I want to do, or what I did I should say, is I built him a nice big frame. I'm going to show you what that frame. And this is a poplar frame that we cut, and you can see that it's pretty thick. It's going to be really deep, so I can get the mounting board in here. There's the little rabbit or the shelf for where the glass will fit eventually, but it's thick enough to where I can get him and his legs however I want, and it won't be a conflict with the surface. And eventually, you know, this has been sanded and you know, mitered and put together, but I'll go ahead and probably clean it up and then stain it pretty dark. Kind of make it darker than his body so his browns kind of show up. Oh, hey Peanuts, thanks for stopping in. I just walked away to get the female here. So these ones specifically are from Peru, but they're going to be anywhere up in the upper drainage valleys of the Amazon. So they're a South American neotropical. You see this huge scimitar coming out of the abdomen. I know it's a little bit shiny because she hasn't been hydrated or anything like that. So this is kind of what they'll look like most of the time when you get these. But this scimitar is the ovipositor, and she will stick that straight in the ground and lay eggs. Yeah, these are huge crickets, man. They're crazy. So she's going to be a little bit smaller in the head and the thorax, whereas the males will be sort of the bulldogs. They have huge jaws, much bigger heads, but the abdomen on the female plus the scimitar gives them a little bit longer length. You know, you're talking about 87 millimeters here, and then if you count the head to the tail, or the ovipositor, excuse me, on the females, is 116 millimeters here. So I'll be right back, and I'll start the process of doing a little repair and then pinning. So one of the things that fell off in the process of shipping was part of his antenna kind of broke apart. We'll save those and I can repair them later. So I'll just place them over here.
Someone said, love everything you do, was able to get a couple pieces from the Tempe Art Fair last year.
Nice. Excellent. So, yeah, one of his little tarsal claws popped off the back foot here. So I'm going to make sure I save that and repair that. So what I'll do is I'll just use the same little stuff here for the butterfly wings I usually use. I'll just pin these down later, and then in the previous video I kind of explained like repairs generally fairly easy for most bugs. Nail polish, clear nail polish is perfect bug glue. I use some resin sometimes, different adhesives. But I'm just going to go ahead and let these three pieces dry separately. Kind of pull out the remaining antennas a little bit here. Make sure they have enough play in them, because I do want to pin them out and around the body. And oftentimes, if it's just a burden, I'll just take the antenna off and repair it later. But if I can keep it in place, it does make it easier. And so, here is this giant spiny lobster. Not necessarily. If do certain adhesives cause damage to the specimens? The long answer is yes, but most common adhesives that people can get regularly generally work well. I would say some cyanoacrylic glues, like you're going to use for model airplanes, or like the very heavy super glues that can bond with metal. They don't necessarily damage the insect, but what they do is they're so hard and they might react with some of the surface cuticle here. And I've seen it kind of bubble and turn white. Like it's a chemical reaction that creates like a weird bubbly white exhaust or material, which I don't really know the science behind that, but it looks really obvious. Whereas something like, 99-cent clear nail polish works perfectly. And so you're not spending any money on working on kind of like a more high VOC toxic resin or glue. Like 2-part epoxy is a bit excessive. Those metal model glue or model airplane glues, probably over the top. I would say you don't want to use Elmer's glue for everything. That's a little bit more flexible and weak. It being also a little organic can also be an issue if it becomes too flexible or rehydrates. So it depends on your final setup. What I'm doing here is this little leg socket where the middle leg here broke off. I'm going to clean it out because I will put glue inside here just to kind of secure it. I also want to move it out a little bit because I want it to pin like the other leg will. So I'm going to bring this leg out just a little bit. So I want to make sure that this socket here can come out a little bit too. But I don't have the leverage of a leg to pull it, so I'm kind of just working it slowly with my nail. So that's good. So there's a little muscle tissue in here that's dried, and it kind of tore out when this fell off in shipping or whenever it did. So I'm going to make sure there's a little cavity there, and I'm end up going to bond that with some glue. Now for an internal fix where I'm just going to kind of fill this with a little bit of glue, I would say Weld Bond or a very powerful, kind of like an Elmer's glue, maybe a little bit above like craft grade, would be preferable here. And then I'm going to use a UV resin to secure it completely. Now, usually what I'll do if I'm in a hurry doing lots of bugs, I'll just pin it out, keep this separate like I did on the other specimens I've showed before, and let them dry, and I'll fix it later. But this guy is pretty much easy to go. He's ready. So I'm going to put a pin behind the legs here connected to the thorax. And then I'm going to put a pin right in his face so he doesn't move forward. I'm going to pin behind the hind leg. So this is what's going to keep him somewhat in a straight line as I start to move these legs out. You see his body wants to twist a little bit, but now I can move the legs out here. Little fly wanted to stop by. Let's see. I haven't found any insects that have kind of given me the EBGBs. So as an insect, if I was to dread working on, the ones maybe that give me the most discomfort in life when they're alive are centipedes. I think centipedes, which I've done lots of, the taxidermy on. I think centipedes in general are just hate tubes. They absolutely care about nothing other than like granting pain to their victims. And so centipedes are a little bit daunting. Plus,
Also tarantula abdomen.
Tarantula abdomens gross me out. I've done a couple bird-eating tarantulas, and people have had them for pets for 12 years. They become super large at that point, like a big female, and you're looking at like a tennis ball to small baseball, wiffle ball type size abdomen. I mean, it's like a substantial leather purse, and to do the taxidermy on that is not my favorite thing. That's all I'll say about that. Beetles, man. A beetle any day over any arachnid or myriapod. I do like millipedes, but they're also tedious to work on. So I'm going to straighten them out here. Same principles as my other pinning. I kind of just make little scissors and then take these push pins and push the thing down that I want. And I kind of just hold it together on the sides. You don't want to pin underneath because sometimes when bugs curl, they'll just rise up. So you definitely want to pin down and over. And so let me see if I can get these legs to separate. So I got a big frame for him, so I want him to take up a little bit of space. You know, kind of lift these knees up. Since I got a nice deep frame, I'm going to have a nice shadow on this insect, and it's going to look really cool. I'm also going to lift up his abdomen here under his next where it connects to the thorax with a post, so he actually rises above even higher once he's done. Let's see here. All right, now comes the time where I can get a little creative with these antennas. They're pretty delicate, and I don't want them to swing too far away from the body. This one will need a little bit of repair, so I'm going to just kind of pin it off to the side here. And, you know, aesthetically speaking, everyone likes the symmetry, but it's just not how nature works. It's a little bit tougher on this one because it's shorter and it's broken. It came with some pieces missing. So I will probably just leave it off to the side and then curl it in a minute. But now is the time for the quick repair. I'm going to take a little bit of weld bond, which is just basically Elmer's glue but on steroids. It's just a little tougher.
What is the biggest insect you spread?
The largest insects we spread are going to be like if it was a living animal, the heaviest possible species we spread is Heteropteryx dilatata, and it's the jungle nymph walking stick. And when those things are alive, the big female that's pregnant is the heaviest insect in the world that's ever been recorded. So we do these heavy stick insects for sure. This guy that I've done is the largest species of beetle. I just finished him not too long ago, did a video, posted it on the Patreon and YouTube. So this is the Titan beetle, which is featured on another video. This is a relatively average sized male. They get way bigger, and this is the largest beetle species on the planet. They can get up to 18 centimeters, and that's just from head to face. It's got nothing to do with legs or antenna. But I also do the arachnids, and so a bird-eating tarantula is going to be very heavy. Probably a contender to the massive abdomen and size of the jungle nymph walking stick, the Heteropteryx dilatata. And then we also do another katydid, which is the second or largest katydid in the world next to the Wetapunga. And it's called Solificera grandi. And it's just got a huge head. It's just stupid looking. Small body, not any bigger than this, but its head is massive and its wings are like, 8 inches. Massive cricket.
They said that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. So this is, Elmer's glue on steroids, weld bond here. So I'm going to put a little bit inside the cavity, just a tiny little bit, right? And I'm going to do the same in the little cavity that I opened up. What I want to do inside here, I'll move these needles off, maybe I can get a better view of it for you guys, is I'm just going to work some of that inside. So I got my little needles, just going to move it in, clean up the edges, put some of that inside. On this guy here, it's about the best of an angle I can get. I'm going to kind of make sure the glue stays inside the cavity, kind of reconstitute it, give it a little bit more integrity. And then I'm going to go ahead and pin his leg as if it was really connected. So I'm just going to stick it there right back on the joint. Something like that. That is going to work. Eventually that glue dries. It's kind of slow drying. So what I want to do is get one more fast acting adhesive on it. And my primary adhesive is going to be, a type of UV resin. It dries clear, it dries strong, it connects to this stuff really well. If I can get my pinning act together and secure this better. Let's do this. Let's say his foot needs to be here. Pin his foot. Now that his foot is pinned, I should be able to lift him a little bit better. Sorry if that's hard to see. I'm going to move this leg back, set it up. So that leg is nice and secure, and because it's a little bit tipsy, I'm going to actually try to just make the other leg look a little bit more like this one. To do that, I'm just going to have to stretch it out slightly and move it down a little bit to kind of get the same symmetry here. And then make sure this one is connected to the glue. This one's a little higher. I like it. I like the knee being higher, so I'm going to back up here. I'm going to raise the knee just a little bit, like that. Now, what's nice about these katydids is they're absolutely covered in spines, which makes it easy for the needle to find purchase on the sides of stuff so it doesn't slide around as much. So he's good to go. What I'm going to do next is kind of something I would technically do when I'm ready to frame him, but I have some UV resin. I'll put a little bit on this needle. It's clear UV resin. And then I'm going to put it on the sides and on the bottom of the detached leg section here, right where the femur connects. And then what's good about this is it dries clear, it's shiny, kind of like the cuticle of the insect anyways, and it's just stronger and faster. So once this cooks, UV light, UV resin, it's going to secure it better than some of the other stuff is already secured naturally. And so that's going to be nice. It's going to dry well, and it's going to be ready.
Someone said, "Wow, awesome cricket."
Yes.
Yes, good cricket.
I have all the good crickets. It's true. I have colossal conehead crickets. I have Tanzanian armored bush crickets. I got katydids. Probably my favorite group of insects is katydids and crickets. I'm going with the common name here. So now my only goal left is just to make the antenna a little bit closer to the body. For the main purpose of when he's framed, I don't want the antennas to actually shoot off somewhere. I don't want them to go under the edge of the frame. So I'm going to kind of curl these towards the body a little bit. This one's a little longer, so I'll make the curve a little bit more gradual. Oh, excuse me. My pinning setup is a little precarious. So I appreciate you guys sticking around here. And so this one's just going to curve up. It's like pointing right up at the sky. That's just the way it is. This one's going to curve off to the side. These pieces broke off. So really, if I wanted to keep the length like nice and symmetrical, obviously I could just kind of cut this one down so it looks nice and curved. Same with this one, kind of cut them the same in the same spot. But generally, I don't mind if they're not symmetrical. I like that this was an adult animal. It lived its whole life. It's got wear and tear on it, scratches, it did stuff. And it's not supposed to be perfect. There's no such thing. It's cool the way it is, and I don't mind any of the superficial damage it incurred. And so, there's tweaks here I could do. I could raise the feet a little bit, pin the feet out, pin the feet down. He's very much locked into his position, so this is all going to be aesthetics now. These little guys coming off help him eat, like pedipalps. Spiders have large ones, for example. These ones on a katydid are fairly small. He's got a few down here that I could register out a little bit so you could see them. And there you go. That is one of the largest crickets in the world. It is the land lobster, the South American. They are omnivorous, but they usually just call them predaceous terrestrial crickets or land lobsters. And you can see that, by their size, that name is kind of funny, but it kind of fits. It's an apt description of these giant creatures. I mean, can you imagine just that thing running around? But thank you so much for stopping in.